der zentralen Position, muss Schwarzer an der Vorsicht, dann ist es Fjørtoft, der ist im Strafraum, Tor! Tor! Für die Frankfurter Eintracht, 5:1.
Hi and welcome to the German Football Podcast, a World Cup special following Germany's exit from the World Cup. We are here to dissect the dad, and I want to just go straight into it and ask what your immediate thoughts were following what we can call a rather dramatic end to the group stages between Germany, Spain, Costa Rica, and the winners, Japan.
Well, first of all, I thought that was the German football podcast. That will A, be bad for us, but B, we will have a great episode analyze it. And yes, the thing is, we've all been saying that Germany is a tournament team. They won the World Cup 4 times. They've had their image of always be good at tournaments. They've, even in 2002, remember where they lost the final against Brazil, they went there as a team that nobody expected anything from, and then they went all the way to the final. Remember I don't know, you remember the final, but the final was a great game of Germany. One of the best goalkeepers in the world at that time, Oliver Kahn, maybe the best, made a rebound, and Ronaldo, the original Ronaldo, scored. So Germany's always have the image of doing well. But the thing is, Markus, when we spoke about this before the World Cup, I said that surprise of this tournament would be Germany. I said that not in a positive way. I said that would be a negative way because last year, so since more or less since Mario Götze made that winning goal, that fantastic winning goal in Brazil when they beat Argentina, they haven't been good. They haven't been developing, and there's a lot of things to that. But I guess that's my immediate thing, that the football god. I've seen all games at this World Cup, and somehow I feel that the football god is quite fair. The football god seemed to reward the team with passion, with team feeling, with national proud of the team. Looking at Japan, South Korea, Australia. I mean, seeing the videos from Melbourne, 4:00 in the morning was amazing. So somehow, the likes of Belgium, Denmark, 2 teams that I felt came there without any buzz. There was nothing. They were just going through the motions. Germany wasn't that bad because they at the last game they won, but they were depending of Spain then getting a point of Japan. So and there could be goal difference deciding everything, and maybe blah 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 blah, they would need another goal and so on. But somehow the football god was fair because they also reward Germany with the consequences of lack of development. If I go hard, I would say the last 8 years, but at least the last 4 years.
Yeah, because you would have thought that if Germany went through, they went out on goal difference, and Spain ended up on the same points, but following a strong result against Costa Rica, went through. Is what you're saying is this forces another moment of reckoning for German talent development. I'm sure multiple experts, coaches, head of academies will try to dissect what has gone wrong and what needs to be done. What is your verdict on it? Because, like you say, Germany were world champions in 2014. There are sometimes, but maybe not enough talents coming up. From before we started this, and maybe the general populace was thinking, yeah, but Germany are, have good, decent academies and what have you. What is your analysis of that aspect to German football?
If I can start with the first thing you said about the goal difference, I think that summed up Germany at the moment, because we have seen in the last 4 or 5 days, the games are so depending on each other. Because I've got 2 screens and I'm watching the games, and it's like you see the same game, both halves, with different things. Okay, it's like a shadow boxing. They're just looking, how do we go? Let's be safe now. And then at halftime, people tell us what's the result in the other game, and then we have to go for it. Like Japan did against Spain. And mind you, Japan was 1-0 down against 2 world champions. And they turned that around. So I think that just sums up also Germany. Why don't you play our favorite, Markus Füllkrug? That has nothing to do with me and you making him a cult person. One year ago, we played in the second league. in Germany for Werder Bremen.
And
but
funny enough, Japan's goal scorers did play in the Zweite Bundesliga. That's
exactly from Fortuna Düsseldorf. And mind you, fun fact, there are 4 players, I guess, from Japan. 4 players from the Bundesliga have scored goals for Japan. 3 in the Bundesliga for Germany, which is also a bit fun fact in it. But the fact is, Marcus, if you play Füllkrug at the start, who is 100% your best goal scorer, your number 9, you put pressure on Japan. So when Japan knows about, okay, say that Germany's up 2-0 after 15 minutes against Costa Rica, they scored 4. They could have scored 2 after 15, 20. They could have been 3-0 up against them. Japan will have thought, wow, we have to watch out. They can win big here. A draw won't be enough, and so on and so on. No, they didn't. They went Thomas Müller. As I love Thomas Müller, has been a legend in the German, but for eight years. Mm-hmm. He hasn't, since the semi-final against Brazil, the 7-0, the game where you and me and the family were sitting on a plane. Mm-hmm. That is another story. He hasn't done 1 assist or 1 goal for Germany at the tournament, which is amazing.
He could have gone on to become the all-time scoring World Cup player, but like you say, and a truly remarkable statistic. No goal involvements.
No, and at that time he was 24. I mean, he could have broken all the records. Mm-hmm. But what I'm saying is that Hansi Flick went to go safe. He went to go with his so-called Bayern block. This Bayern block of 7 players that everybody loves, and we can just know.
But let's get into that then, because
because I have to answer your question. Sorry, Marcus. You are the host. So I have to ask you answer your question because the development of players. Yes, there is an image of German academies developing players, but it's a symbol for them, isn't it? That their best player at this World Cup, their biggest talent, in Musiala, who is developed in England. Yeah. I mean, he is a wonder kid. He's fantastic. It was against Costa Rica. It looked like he wanted to do everything on his own because he went with the ball, hit the post a couple of times. He was like amazing. So you've seen that the German academy, who was very good like 20 years ago, because development takes time, and a big football nation like Germany haven't been able to develop or create a striker. I mean, in all due respect to Füllkrug, he's 29. Mm-hmm. Talking about you being a late starter, he is the latest starter of them all and coming in and doing well. Bayern Munich goes Choupo-Moting. He's from Cameroon. They don't have a German striker coming through. And I think that is something to do with the kind of German, I'm not saying society, but I read some articles this morning that someone said this is a consequence of a society there was some player, I think it was Gnabry, who said it after the game, we are getting too much into a comfort zone. So a lot of the players that do develop are more or less on the same level, same kind of players, and you're lacking that striker. And I just have to note that Florian Wirtz, one of the biggest talent, was injured, and the Bayer Leverkusen couldn't be there. But still, the development system in Germany is not that good at the moment. But mind you, it's also for people who listen to this, Hansi Flick saying, we haven't done anything with our development system for years. Oliver Bierhoff, the head of sport at the German Football Association, says we haven't done anything with our development system for years. Who been in charge of that? Hansi Flick, Oliver Bierhoff. We remember Hansi Flick being the guy who was at Bayern, had a great success there, but he's always also been sport director of the German Football Association. Mm-hmm. He has always been the assistant coach to Joachim Löw. Oliver Bierhoff is now been 18 years he's been in his position. So, point the fingers where the fingers are supposed to be pointed.
You mentioned there then, I want to break it down. I want to do the Bayern block, and I want to do the number 9, just as we're on the topic of the number 9s. Societal, yes, in the sense that we look around, how many number 9s do we have? Top number 9s in European football, straight out and out number 9s. I can think of, a handful of world-class ones. I'm thinking back to Germany, and yes, Germany have in Miroslav Klose, the all-time top scorer in the World Cup. But as we've discussed on this previously, they used to have a Kevin Kurani or a Samoa up top or what have you, not been spoiled for top-class strikers either for Germany these last 2 decades, but still had the association of being a tournament team, being strong when it comes to those final moments. The number 9s there, people spoke about the lack of balance in the team, and that will take us into the Bayern one as well. Let's just explore this era, because the people said the balance of the team. I see a Musiala who's carrying a team at 19, which I don't know is good or bad, because he is my favorite player to watch now. I think he had 13 successful dribbles against Costa Rica, which is his second most in a World Cup match. He's 19. How do you see then it going forward? Do they say, okay, for the moment going forward, we build around the number 9? Is the balance in the team wrong? Do we break up the Bayern block? If we try and diagnose what can be done?
Yeah, it's a good observation. But German football have got, when I grew up, and I've always been, as you know, because Norway didn't go to the World Cups or Euros, I always supported England and Germany. Mm-hmm. So we were lucky enough to be there south in 1994, which was an amazing experience. But I kept on supporting those 2 teams. When I grew up, you had a Klaus Fischer, you had Horst Rubic, you had Karl-Heinz Rummenigge. Not all of them may be number 9s, but there were Rudi Völler. I mean, Rudi Völler, a fantastic player in the 1990s. Jürgen Klinsmann. They had a lot of players who can decide, be match winners. And then you said Miroslav Klose is still the number 1 in number of goals at World Cup. And if not Ronaldo will do something special, or Messi, he will. It's a long way up for them, even for them. But the thing is that I think that's shown this in World Cup, Marcus. And I made that. I said about passion. The football god has rewarded. They have rewarded themselves for passion. But I've also seen, and I'm not want to say that what we said before the World Cup. I also said I thought Argentina and France will do well after Saudi Arabia beat Argentina. I thought that tip was very bad, but no, Argentina is coming there. But one thing that we said, that where the team like Spain, Belgium, and Denmark, we use those 3 teams, they don't have that number 9. And mind you, the number 9 is not always about scoring goals. It's like you saying, it's the balance in the team, because Harry Kane, England got 9 goals, I think, now already, and he hasn't scored, but he has been very vital for them. He's been very important in terms of assist, but also to keep the ball, to let all the players in and around him look well. So in Germany, they have a word called Wandspieler. To translate it directly 1-to-1 is wall player. So you play at the wall, you play up to the striker, you move the rest of the midfield block after, so you can play with him, you know. Mm-hmm. And even Spain started without a striker. Then they scored a lot of goals, but I see now more and more Morata getting the chance to be in there, because Enrique will see that kind of player I need, because it's not only me and you that see the number 9 needed. Then to the Bayern block, the reason I say that is that German journalists, German football commentators, they have one thing in common. One, they love Bayern, all of them. They are desperate to love Bayern. Mm-hmm. A lot of them was also former Bayern player, has to be said, most of them. And I will praise one, Bastian Schweinsteiger, former Bayern player, has been fantastic at this World Cup, has to be said. He works with a former colleague of mine at Sky Germany, Esther. Esther is a great interview, and they've been doing well. So it's not a criticism of the commentaries, but there's always this idea, just as we get as many Bayern players in there, if one of them is out, like in the first game, Gundogan was out and Goretzka was in and Gundogan was in the team. Wow, this is not good. Then Gundogan scored a goal and he was taken out, and then they lost the game against Japan. But this Bayern block, sometimes I think get raised up too much, because I think it's all about finding the balance. If that means you got to have every Bayern player in the team, fine. But like now, when you came into the Costa Rica game, I think it was a bad mistake to have Müller there, because he was not there on performance. He was there on former performances, and that is wrong in my opinion. So it's not a matter of Bayern players are not good enough. It's a matter of what's the best balance in the team, and that is what is always going to be done. Sometimes you feel Hansi Flick, Marcus, is too nice, because I met Hansi Flick. He's the best guy in the world, but leadership is all about doing also the big decisions, and the big decisions being leave players out, leave and be clear to them. I saw Bastian Schweinsteiger said something about it, and then Hansi Flick just cut him off. No, everything is okay. But fair enough, when you get knocked out of the World Cup at this stage, criticism is hard to take. Fair enough. Of course.
I also saw on the topic of Bastian Schweinsteiger and fair play, and he said, and I want to get into that as a former center back, and he said that of that back line, only Antonio Rudiger was world class. The rest were Bundesliga quality. Now, what does he mean by that comment? Is that an indictment of the Bundesliga, having Bundesliga be, maybe you'd say, top 3 leagues in the world? But on that note, we can talk about talent development. We can talk about a lack of number 9. We can talk about the Bayern block, and it all plays into this analysis. But when I see that the lack of urgency in defense, it's rather astonishing. I see a Niklas Süle, who Bayern wanted to keep, who was regarded as, and still regarded as, one of the best center backs in Germany, obviously, as he's playing for them. But there's at least get that right. And you said that about Denmark, about Spain to some degree. We have to go back to basics here as well. And I don't want to sound too old fashioned, but I see some of the defending there, which costs them dearly as well. And maybe this is good for German football that they go out, because it is a moment of reckoning. But even still, I look back and I think there are ways to avoid this situation altogether as well.
Yeah, but the problem is, Marcus, the analysis were done the same after 2018 Russia World Cup. Then they got out after 3 games as well. They played South Korea. They lost 2-0 in the last game. They took ages for Joachim Löw to resign, the World Cup winning coach. So we had the same problem there. 4 years later, 4.5 years later, there are the same problems there. The problem at the back, Marcus, it's a very vital point that you're saying. But it's nothing to do with the Bundesliga. It's to do that the player is not good enough on this level, because we have to compare it with this level. You have to compare that with other countries. And to be fair to an Harry Maguire, you can criticize him all the thing you want in the world, but he is a defender. He defends his country, defends his goal. Have a look at the first game. Then they play Schlotterbeck and Süle, who both been struggling big time in Dortmund this season. So they are 2 or 4 at the back. Raum on the left, good play. He got great crosses. I would love to play with as a striker with those kind of crosses, especially that cross he had to Gnabry. The screw, if you say that, is always the same. So he just have to meet the ball. Fantastic, but not a great defender. Rudiger is there, but Rudiger is also. Sometimes Rudiger get into this Upamecano kind of department where you never know what's going to happen. Right. I think that Rudiger, of all people, yes, he has developed great. He has progressed from winning the Champions League with Chelsea. He was a big part of that, going to Real Madrid. But I suspect him being a player who needs to have good defenders around him, if you know what I'm saying.
Yeah.
So I wouldn't have looked at all the defenders at the World Cup saying, well, Rudiger gonna lead my defense. I would say get Rudiger in there because he's a good defender. So if you know the difference in there. And then you have Schlotterbeck. Schlotterbeck made a career of marking for Freiburg, Erling Haaland. Erling didn't score. And I remember then he was the best defender in the world. And Germany was so desperate to get a young defender in there. He's a good lad, great attitude, very, very well articulated. And then he went to Dortmund. But it's a fact that he's been struggling. There are games he's good and games he's bad. That 2-1 goal against Japan, Marcus, yes, we can talk about positioning. Yes, we can talk about Süle not standing well because of the offside line and all that kind of thing. But Schlotterbeck was running next to the Japan attacker, and he didn't do anything. I mean, that was a highway to a goal.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, he was 2 or 3 meters behind him, and he didn't do anything. It was not like he was that close, afraid to do a penalty. He was just in there. So then he got bummed out. He didn't play anything more at the World Cup. Then you have Süle. Süle at the right back is a mystery, because there are two mystery. Point one, he hasn't been looked bad when he done that for Bayern Munich at Champions League. I mean, that is mystery number one. Mystery number two is how unbelievable out of kind of his depth he looked at this World Cup, a right back. He shouldn't be at the right back. It's just one of those things. With that body, with that height, with that everything, he should never be there. It was same as you was right back in New Zealand, Marcus. Before you before you understood that position when you came to to Scotland, and you knew that you had to find your position. He was so uncomfortable in that position. I think that you can feel for that.
But you can see a physique like that, but it doesn't look comfortable. But even as a center back against Costa Rica, I see some of the goals as well. I talk about urgency. That's what I miss, and we can talk about this like romantic ideal of playing for your country, but I'm serious when I say you are playing for your country, and you're in a World Cup, and I get a bit frustrated, provoked by it, and I'm not saying obviously he's a fantastic career, but that annoys me as well, because those are the controllables. But maybe I'm being a bit too old-fashioned and Scottish. Old-fashioned and Scottish is not bad when it comes to defending. But the thing is that fact is, everything is an opinion, who is good and who is bad. But the fact is, I think is it 10 consecutive games at tournaments with Germany are conceding goals. They're conceding goals all the time. Remember, they were 3-1 up against England, 3-3. You have I love Manuel Neuer. He had some great saves, even against Costa Rica. I think it was at 1-0 or 2-0. He had a great save there as well. Then he didn't look good on the goals either. So even Manuel Neuer looks insecure in that department. But I think, Marcus, but if I may say, we can go into players, we can go into system, we can go into everything. But I think that one of the, and you have to help me, what's it called in English now? The Norwegians' word for it is sect. They are some sect. Cult.
They are German football got to be aware that they are kind of a cult.
Yeah.
And that is going back to the Bayern thing. It seems that the good or bad thing about German football, there is only one team competing with the rest in the Champions League. We can discuss that is not good for German football because they won it 10 times in a row. And we can also say, and I underline that, is that it's not Bayern's fault. Bayern is just doing a good job financially, getting the best players, winning football games, winning the Champions League. So it's nothing to do with them. But it's bad for German football that you kind of build up a cult in and around Bayern. Being journalists, being commentators, former players, being them winning everything. Because I don't think that then you will have a constructive, I don't think you will have a dynamic, I don't think you will have a platform to discuss development if at the end is the same persons with the same reference, with the same kind of values, view, attitude from Bayern. And let me say it again, nothing wrong with Bayern, because Bayern as a club, maybe the most fascinating club in the world, been able to do that family kind of thing with Uli Hoeneß, Karl-Heinz Rummenigge, Franz Beckenbauer, former players. But I think that what is done to compare with English football, and yes, there are so many bad things also about English football in terms of money, in terms of ownership, in terms of everything. But what you do get in England is that you have more or less all the best managers in the world there. Mm-hmm. What does that say? That means that we have different views on a lot of different topics in football. A Guardiola, a Klopp, or Tuchel when he was there. Everybody, Conte. You have a discussion. You have an ongoing discussion how you develop your game. But in Germany, you have the discussion on the stage of Bayern Munich. And that stage is fantastic. They may win the Champions League this year as well. But to develop German football, you need different voices, different values, a curiosity how you develop the game in other countries, in other cultures. So German football got to watch out. They need to have impulses. They need to have new voices, new ideas into the game. Just see what happened when Pep Guardiola came there to Bayern. There was a new way of thinking. Was he right in everything? No, not saying that. I'm just saying that he came in with new ideas. I want to do this. I want to do that. Why do you do this? That is how you develop a football country. That is how you develop a football culture. You don't develop a football culture by saying, we've done this for over 100 years. We've done that. Talk to this World Championship medal guy. Talk to this World Cup winner. You have to have a lot of voices. And I think that if they're honest, and if we're honest by everything that's going to be done now in a longer term, that is the thing. We have to have new ideas into German football.
I think those are some great words to part on that. And I completely agree, whether that applies to football or other avenues of life. We will certainly discuss this ongoing as the Bundesliga returns, not until mid-January and onwards. But good words to part on. We have a tournament to enjoy. We are 2 teams down. Norway didn't make it. Germany are out. All our eggs are on England now. So until then, maybe we dissect an England performance. But until then, we will be analyzing the World Cup, and we will have a little review following the tournament's conclusion at the very least. Thanks a lot, Dad.
Thank you. Same to you, Marcus.
Thanks for watching, and please subscribe. And if you have any comments, any issues, themes that you want us to discuss, give us a comment, and we always reply to that. And if you know something that we don't know, which you probably do, just give us a shout.